Now then, thanks for being with us again. Now this story is from 1970. 1970s were a brilliant time, as lots of you will remember. Now if you don't, you have to take my word for it, but they were really. Now on this particular Saturday in 1970, we'd been to look at a house. And we did love this house. We happened on it quite by accident. It's in a village north of Boston in Lincolnshire on a very long straight road. Now, I've always called it the 7 Mile Straight. I think folks locally call it the 7 Mile Straight. My grandson, who's 29, he was here to see us a couple of weeks ago for our wedding anniversary. And he said he'd been down that road and religiously worked out the mileage, and it was only 6 miles. So I said, hang on a minute. I says, if you keep going over the bridge at Revesby and keep going to the first corner, it'll take you a bit further, and it's still straight. He'd gone from Revesby Bridge up to Frithville, the junction at Frithville, and he swore it's only 6 miles. Right, 7 Mile Straight. Okay, this house is on the 7 Mile Straight. Not quite halfway. It's at New Bolingbroke, and I used to go home that way from Firestone, Lincoln. I was still working for Firestone, and every Friday I had to go and see my boss Fred Friday morning, and we got heads together and decided what to try and do next week and how things were going. And then he'd set me, this is Friday morning, I was supposed to be working in Lincoln, and seeing lots of people. Anyway, this is what he wanted me to do. So went in the office, and then he set me the task of flog some stuff that was in stock and it hadn't moved very fast. So I had to find somebody to buy these tyres, and then he'd buy me lunch. And we used to go to the Eastgate Hotel at Lincoln, which is a rather nice hotel. It was in the 1970s. It was fairly newly built, and he'd buy me lunch on his expense account. We'd start off with schooners of sherry, sweet sherry, and then continue with something off the menu. So in the afternoon, I'd mosey home, if we'd drunk a bottle of wine between us or something. And there's no breathalyzer, Well, I don't think it was then anyway. I'm sure it wasn't. So I'd go home, and now and again, I'd leave the office at about 4:30, 5 o'clock, I suppose. And I'd frequently catch up with a young chap driving an MG Midget. It had a canvas roof. An MG Midget was a smaller version of the MGB. It was a 1250 engine, very similar to the modern version of the TA from the 1930s, like we used to have TA. So a Midget, and I didn't know who it was. Anyway, it said the registration was Ken 45. I didn't know who it was until much later, and we became good friends and even neighbours, actually. So Ken 45 was Ken Rundle, the middle brother of 3 brothers of John H. Rundle and his wife, who lived at the Globe in New Bolingbroke, and they ran the J.H. Rundle and Son engineering business. And foundry and all kinds of other things. But I didn't know all that until much later. Anyway, beetling along, we used to race. All right, I think I had an Escort by that time, Mark 1 Escort, 1100, yeah. So I started with Firestone in 67, and I had an Anglia for 2 years, 69. Yep, 1970, I had a CGJ 18H. It was a 1100cc Mark 1 Escort. Bloody hell, it was a flyer. Well, it was, 'cause I used to thrash it. Well, it wouldn't half go. 1100 Escort. I used to wear tyres out in about 3 weeks. Used to drive Fred mad. But anyway, I thought, well, I'm testing the tyres, you see. Anyway, back to the story. I'm deviating, aren't I? So I used to have a race with Ken 45. I mean, you're not supposed to race on the roads, and it was only a little race, so he couldn't leave me though. I mean, the 1250 Midget would have twin carbs. Yeah, because the TA had twin carbs, and it would be quite fast. An A series engine, MCA series. I think my Mark 1 Escort had a far better engine probably. you know, it was getting to be quite a frisky motor, the Escort. So, but he couldn't leave me behind, and the Escort cornered quite well too. So anyway, we used to have some good times. More than one, several times I'd find him on the road, probably at Rugby or somewhere like that, and I'd catch him up. I couldn't pass him, and he couldn't leave me behind. And we used to have some good fun driving home from Lincoln, because he was, I think he was an apprentice at Clayton de Wanderers at the time, in Lincoln. Learning all about engineering, which was good for the firm, and he consequently became the boss. So, just going into New Bolingbroke, Ken 45 slowed down and it turned into the Globe. And I was hard on his toes. And just as he turned in, I saw this house, this beautiful house on the left-hand side, just before the Globe. And it had a for sale sign on it. This is one particular Saturday, Friday, coming home, one particular Friday. And this house had a for sale sign. I thought, bloody hell, look at that. And I quickly noticed that it was William H. Brown's in Boston, who were the agents. So I kept going, and as soon as I got home to 45 Woodside, I told Ruth about this house. I said, I've just seen one hell of a house. I said, by God, I would like to live there. And she said, well, you know, go on, let's have a look. So Saturday morning, we rang up the agents, said, can we come and see this house? So they phoned the owner, who was at home, and whatever, and we got invited sort of for tea in the afternoon, a look around the house. And so we duly went to look at Ivy House New Bolingbroke on a Saturday just after lunch, and we met Peter Lely and his wife. Now Peter, the owner of the house, is in fact a direct descendant of Sir Peter Lely, who was the court painter to Charles II. And in this house, the day we were looking around it, was a self-portrait by Sir Peter Lely hanging on one of the walls. And that was something, I can tell you. Anyway, Peter and his wife and had the kids, they were lovely folks. And the house was half empty because they were moving to Spain to start an art school. And they wanted to, you know, get rid of the house. So actually the house was up for auction. It was up for auction the next week. Yeah, before the end of the next week. I can't remember what day or whatever. So anyway, we kept looking around, and we ended up in the kitchen. In the kitchen, all he got left in the kitchen was a plywood table. I think he gave it to me actually. A table, knocked up out of plywood, and you know, wooden legs and things, but it had a plywood top. And I ended up making some sandwiches on the table. No tablecloth or anything. We had bread and jam sandwiches, all of us. And I made them on this table. But we did fall in love with that house. It was one beautiful house. And not just the house, but behind it, there's a maltings. I don't know, 2,500, 3,000 square feet of maltings under a pantile roof. An enormous single-span building. And then behind that was some derelict stables and all kinds of bits and bobs. It was a beautiful garden, with walled garden facing south. With the basin was there, the remains of the old drain, where originally New Bolingbroke, when it was built by John Parkinson, you can read more about this at another blog, all the stuff that was needed to build the new town of New Bolingbroke was brought by water down this drain. From Boston up Frithville, down the Medlam Drain, and then down this offshoot into New Bolingbroke to the basin. And at the bottom of the garden, behind the big wall, was actually the remains of a barge, half sunk in and out the basin there. Oh, the house was packed with history and beautiful features. It was lovely. So we said to Peter, says, by God, we like this house, you know. I said we'd better speak to the agent. And of course it's too late then to speak to him that night. So I rang the agent Monday morning and he said, well, to stop the auction, you need to pay a double deposit. I think the price is, well, I always thought it was 5,000 quid. Ruth says it was 6,000. So let's say 6,000. So 10% deposit is 600. and double that is £1,200. So we had to find £1,200 minimum. But then, of course, the house had to be paid for, and we got a mortgage on our existing house at Ivy House at 45 Woodside. So that had to be sorted as well. So major jump. We had to find something like £5,000 or £6,000 on Monday, theoretically, mortgage, bank, whatever you like, to stop this auction. Otherwise, we might have got it less, But you never know. House auctions, or if you get two people that like it, sky's the limit. It might have gone for a lot more. See, 6,000 are asking. It might have gone for more. Anyway, they were prepared to sell us it for 6,000, and to make sure that we could get it, we had to pay a double deposit by Monday night to the agents to stop this auction. So that was the task. So Monday morning arrived. Well, Monday morning, yeah, all right. So this is Monday in Boston. I'd sort of rung up Fred and said, look, I've got a bit waylaid in Boston, so I'm just in the town. Normally I used to spend Monday in Sleaford and Grantham, and I'd spend Monday lunchtime with Gladys, Fred's wife, because she lived in this great barn of a house at it's on tip of my tongue, begins with a B. Anyway, and she insisted that I used to go for lunch on a Monday, and we had bread and cheese or something very simple, and talked to Gladys for a bit, and she got a bit bored, I suppose, there on her own. So I wasn't going this Monday, so I was otherwise involved in trying to sort things out in Boston. So first thing I did after I spoke to the agents was go and see our friendly local bank manager. Our bank was Lloyds Bank in Boston. And, I reckon the manager's name was Mr. Warrick. Ken Warrick. Blinking sure it was at that time. Yeah, and you could, in the 1970s, you could go and see a friendly local bank manager and explain your requirements and whatever. And ask him, give him a proposal, do what you like, and he would make a decision. There, you didn't have to go to any business place or biggest county town or anything like that. You went to your local friendly bank manager. So Lloyds Bank, we went, and Ruth and I both had quite good jobs. When she was earning more than me, by this time she was a sister. Junior sister, and so she was on quite good money and I was on quite good money with Firestone. So the actual cost of a mortgage for £6,000 or whatever we'd end up with after we'd sold our own house, see, that was what I needed the bank for, was a bridging loan, because you don't know how long it's going to take to sell your own house, and we wanted to buy this one, so I needed a bridging loan. So that was £6,000. And once our house is sold, then the mortgage could be rearranged for the other house, you see, and all that kind of thing. But in the meantime, we had to get £6,000. So Ken said to me, he says, right, look, if you can get a provisional okay from your building society, can't remember which one it was, Nationwide or something, I think, at the time. If you can get provisional okay that they would look at a mortgage for you on this new property, then I'll help you. So I had to race around then to the building society and get an appointment there to explain the circumstances and get some figures sorted out, and provisional, what the loan would be and mortgage and that kind of thing, and details of our earnings and all this lot down on paper pretty quickly to get an answer from them, a provisional answer, so I could go back to the bank before the close of business, which was about 3:30, 4 o'clock on Monday afternoon, and get some money into the agents to stop this auction. Anyway, things were a bit fraught. You can imagine. Providing figures for the bank, providing figures for the building society, dashing between the two, telephoning this, trying to keep my boss happy because I wasn't at work, Anyway, it worked. By the end of the day, Ken Warrick said, yes, all right, initially you can have, what was it? 600. Well, you can have £1,200 an hour. All right, £1,200. Well, £1,200 in 1970 is quite a lot of money. Our house, at 45 Woodside, we bought it for just over 3,000. So £1,200, you could probably buy a very small house for £1,200 or a lot less. So we got our 1,200. We got it sent or taken to the agents, William H. Brown, and Dick Parkinson was the local agent at William H. Brown's at that time. Now, thereby hangs another little tale, is that Ruth and I ran the Sea Scouts in Boston at the time. And I think I was probably the scout leader, and Ruth was the Cub scout leader, Wolf Cubs. And in our scouts, among the scouts and the Cubs had been, was a chap called Philip Keatley. Philip's father was Cyril Keatley, who had been one of my customers when I worked when I worked the Standard in the 1960s. This is 10 years before. So 10 years before we're trying to buy this house, I was working for the Standard and doing adverts. And one of my customers was Cyril Keatley. So I knew Cyril quite well. And Philip, his son, had been in the Scouts. I think he still was at that time. And Dick Parkinson was married to one of Cyril's daughters. So small world, isn't it? And so there we are. So we got the first hurdle over, and we managed to get a double deposit lodged with the agents by Monday night to stop the auction. So then, you don't have it isn't like Scotland or France, where in England, where you have to promise to buy the place. If this happened in France now, when you pay your deposit, you have to sign over and say, I'm going to buy this house, come what may, and if you don't, you're in Queer Street. It's like that in Scotland, I think. You can't back out of it. Well, there is just a little way out of it, but you can't back out of it, basically. Whereas in England, oh dear, then we've got this problem trying to sell 45 Woodside. Oh dear, and it went on and on. Of course, all the time we're paying interest to Lloyds Bank for this £6,000 loan. Now, interest on £6,000 in 1970, it might only have been 3%, 4%. That's a lot of money, So it's soon eating away our earnings. Was this interest we had to keep paying, and so it was important that we sold 45 Woodside. Back a minute. Because we'd paid a double deposit, we could move in. Yeah. Why, we did too. As soon as the next week was over, Peter Lely was going. He was off to Spain as quick as he could, like a rocket. And in fact, before the month was out, we moved in to Ivy House New Bolingbroke, which is quite amazing. Changed our lives. But anyway, just before we finish, just going back to, 18 minutes now, just going back to selling 45 Woodside. Yeah, I must tell you this. We had several people nibbled at it, and then one couple really was seriously wanted it. But they knew we had to sell it. We knew we were under some pressure from somewhere or other. And so they were about to sign for it at an agreed price, which wasn't bad. It was a good buy for them. It was less. I think it was less than we paid for it. And anyway, they said, "Oh no, we were not going to. We wanted another reduction." What? So I think it was Brown's that sold it for us. Actually, I've got the sales details up here somewhere. I'll bring it up. I think it was Brown's who sold it. So that was a good house, for a modern house. It had gas, warm air, underfloor heating. It was the only house in the estate with that. Somebody wanted to really have something different and good. It had extra windows that were larger, and it had garage which was extra, and yes, and the hot water system was multi-point, but not not a little thing over the kitchen sink, you know. It was a master multi-point under the stairs. So whether you're in the kitchen or upstairs in the bathroom, you turn the tap on and hot water came out. And it was a gas multi-point, instantaneous hot water system. So there's actually no hot water cylinder anywhere. And for airing the clothes, we had a warm air outlet under the bath. And so we had a clothes airer in the bathroom that was, you had to air the clothes on that over this warm air outlet. Or you could warm air outlets in the lounge. You could put clothes airers over there. It was a brilliant system, very quick. Plus we had a back sea, underfloor, open fire in the lounge. Underfloor, so that there's no draft, you know, coming under your doors and stuff. When you sat in front of the fire, the air for the fire came actually from the outside through an air brick and under the floor and just came up in front of the fire. A back sea, there we were good. Right, back to these folks who said, no, we want a bit more reduction. So, all right. We said, okay, if this is the final reduction, then okay. So we nipped down. We weren't there. We weren't living there. We were living at the new house. So we nipped back quick. And I think I took a trailer or something. Upstairs in the loft, there was umpteen. We put, you know, boards up in the loft so you could store things and things like that. So I took those down, left 2 or 3. Took most of those down because I thought I can use these. And in the kitchen door was an extractor fan. Well, I took that out and put the old glass back. It was a Philips extractor fan. I thought, bloody, I didn't take the light bulbs. I mean, a lot of people, you know, in England, if you sell a house and you buy a house, they'll nick them, they'll take light bulbs with them. And we weren't as mean as that. But I did want these expensive boards from the loft. Took those out, and they bought it. Okay, they bought it, moved in, all that. But it wasn't long for Peter and Margaret. Peter was Ruth's boss, and at London Road Hospital, they rang us and said, "Hey, are those? Was your loft upstairs? Was it insulated?" I said, "Oh yeah, it's fully insulated. You know, it's all modern regs and everything." Well, they said there's upstairs bedroom, the front bedroom, it's got all this loft insulation poking through the ceiling. So we couldn't help we're going to have a look. So we asked Margaret and Peter to tell us when there's nobody there. So we nipped back one day, minute, you know, not a minute or two, a little day or so afterwards, and had a look through the window from Peter and Margaret's bedroom, and there was all this loft insulation come through the ceiling of the upstairs bedroom at the front. So I thought, I know what's happened there. He's been up in the loft and put his feet through the ceiling. So I thought, oh, there we are. You shouldn't have asked for a second or third reduction in the price. But I wasn't mean. I mean, bloody hell, he wanted a few £100 knocking off the price. I thought, well, you can't just do that for nothing, can you? So, I mean, the boards for about 50 quid, I suppose. All these, because wood's expensive, especially, you know, these things like your builder's planks, you know. Hey, there we are. So that was a bit about, I think that's enough for today. That's a bit about buying Ivy House New Bolingbroke and some of the hoops we had to jump through to get it. You know, the mortgage came through eventually, and we spent 14 very happy years there. Lovely neighbours, lovely village. So there we are. So thanks for being with us today. That was a bit about 1970s, going to knock on the door of your friendly bank manager and asking him for help. And they would help you. They would. Sometime a bit later on, they were a bit awkward, but they would help you. They'd help us then anyway. That was important to us. It worked. So there we are. You don't have bank managers anymore, do you? I can't find any. Everything's online. They don't even bank premises much. We've got them here in France. All the big towns have got all the different banks are there, and they arrange insurance and stuff now more than anything else. So thanks for being with us. Don't forget, right, website up here somewhere. Click on the website. Look at all the things you can see. There's oodles of hours of entertainment there. On the Buzzsprout thing, the podcasts, you can download them to any thing, telephone, whatever, and listen to them where you like. I think they're very funny. And so there we are. Thanks for being with us, and until the next time, cheerio.